Dr. Mariaskin is here. So we're going to go through kind of the conversation or whatever you'll take me through to figure out what I may or may not actually face in my life. It started as just an email, and we were like, oh, guys, we should explore this a little more, because I felt like I faced OCD a lot when I was younger. As I got older, I feel like I kind of was able to take some control back, but in like stressful moments, I still lose a little bit of that power.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this would be cool. Like, it'd be good to learn and actually know if I have it. And then yesterday arrived, and my wife was like, well, if they say that you do have OCD, is that going to accidentally trigger something that, like, kicks it back in a little further? And I said, no. And then I was like, oh, maybe it is a little enabling to hear that you have a title or some stigma, and now you give in a little more because you're like, well, everybody already knows. So that happened. And then as we're walking back here, I stopped being Ty, and I started being the patient. And so that was a little bit unnerving, honestly, just walking from the front of this into the office. I was like, oh, man, are people looking at me now like, oh, they're assessing him, which I'm sure everybody faces, so that's why I'm glad we're going through this.
I'm really glad that you're having that experience in the sense that, yeah, I want it to be as real as possible. I've taken care, knowing that you have a radio show, I've taken care not to learn anything about it.
Thanks.
Or look you up.
Thanks for not listening.
Right. So I can be a fan afterwards.
Yeah.
But right now, I want it to be completely unbiased so that I could do an accurate assessment.
Yeah, so when we go, we'll turn the camera off for the whole assessment because we've kind of mentioned this on air, but basically you might ask about things that aren't just directly like, do you tap your finger 20 times? It's going to be like, what's going on in this part of your life or this part?
Yeah.
I'm pretty open, but I'm also protective of my wife or my parents or whatever, because who knows, I have no idea what you're going to ask. And that way it'll be nice because we can just be honest without a camera,
Exactly.
and then afterward we'll reassess.
Yeah, afterwards we can come together. We'll be joined by my colleague, Dr. Stephanie Eken, who's a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just have
and
a
radio
conversation.
pro. She's heard the show.
Oh,
no big deal.
I know. She's got a leg up there. But yeah, we'll just chat about it and chat about next steps. I certainly want you to, feel comfortable, and I want this to be as useful as possible to you. So I understand being nervous is a part of it, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, it was more just you turn from like a person into a project or something. I felt that happening as I was walking in here, which I know nobody's purposefully doing that. These guys might be because the producers behind the camera are just a-holes. Sometimes on purpose. We just mess with each other all the time. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up is like kind of what we want out of this. The original goal was to understand OCD and address the letter that we got that was like, hey, you guys sometimes say Ty's OCD is starting to show, or his tendencies are coming out, or whatever, Ty's OCD is coming out. So we wanted to make sure that we're accurately using that term, if I have OCD, or that we can say, maybe, I don't know if this is part of the assumption or not, but maybe you can say, yes, Ty did have OCD at some point in his life, even if it's a little lighter now, it's tendencies or something instead, or I don't have it at all. Then you can say, like, yeah, he did have OCD, so maybe sometimes when you're like, it's starting to peak out again, it's not inaccurate. And then what am I facing now, or am I facing anything? And then I'll deal with either understanding that I have a title next to my name sometimes now, or understanding that I was wrong my entire 36 years of life, thought I had something that I didn't have.
Yeah. Well, and I think most importantly, too, regardless of where you are on the continuum of OC symptoms, whether or not it's a clinical diagnosis that we can give at the end, or if it's just something where occasionally you have some concerns, I want to make sure to give you tools and maybe even to give the community some kind of tools. I mean, obviously that doesn't supplant actual therapy or anything like that, but just to talk a little bit about what we can do for individuals with OCD, because we have really great outcomes.
Here's hoping I have it then. Or either way, we could probably talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, we'll get to that, and Brian can shut off the camera, and we'll talk about all the secrets, and then we'll rehash all the secrets probably in a split second for you if you're watching. Well, this is after this session. How long did we talk, by the way, Dr. Mariaskin?
Boy, I think it was about 90 minutes or so, about an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes.
And she learned more about me than anyone has ever learned in that amount of time. By the way, Paul, go Pack Go, just in case he's watching. So we covered the gamut on, without saying anything personally about me, what did you kind of assess? I know we talked about ADD issues, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety. Does that pretty much range everything?
Yeah, so what I'll do is, knowing that you are particularly interested in an OCD assessment, I had him come in and just got a bit of life history, social history, things like that, work history, family history, etc.
For the record, I'm totally happy with anything that we talk about. From anything that happened in this room, I'm totally comfortable having on the camera. But I'll try to open up about some of it. Yeah. We started asking about my life as a young lad growing up in Iowa and South Dakota. And then you kind of go through like your school years, the different things that happened, big events. I couldn't think of any like huge traumatic events, and I'm sure that I will, because even as we went forward, part of it was I don't know about any huge traumatic events, and then I remembered later, I was like, oh, in high school, like my senior year, there were suicides basically every week during this 1 month period, and I started helping implement this program called Ask, Listen, and Inform, and that all, kind of led to me having a better understanding of what people go through. But it obviously affects you, I guess. I don't know if that implied anything in the OCD aspect of it.
Not necessarily. Really, for that with trauma, I'm just looking, is there anything there that might be, either that if one has OCD, if their OCD symptoms would sort of appropriate it or bring it into the realm of symptoms, or really with PTSD. So a lot of people, it's okay to say like, no, I don't really think that there were any traumas, and like not everybody has something like that. And then given that you're particularly interested in OCD assessment, I certainly included that in the batteries and questions that I asked, but then also other anxiety disorders, kind of running through that.
So let's cover those quick, because it sounded like we probably don't have to focus much on anxiety. I had a couple attacks maybe in my life, which is not
panic
normal.
Attacks, yeah.
Which are really common.
Really common.
Over 30% of the general population has panic attacks. So.
And I probably had two. I remembered one in Burlington Code Factory, because the damn line wasn't moving. And what was the other one? Do you remember? I don't remember. Get the notes.
Oh, it was another situation where you felt that things were not efficient.
Running efficiently. That sounds right. That's like, does that sound right, Brian, behind the camera?
So they weren't unprovoked, which denotes that it wasn't panic disorder. There wasn't any subsequent avoidance of social situations, so it wasn't agoraphobia. So we kind of cleared that out.
And we looked at the idea that ADD was coming into play. Maybe there was some sort of like attention deficit thing to look at. Do you think that was ever the case? Or?
It doesn't sound like we have evidence for that. I was kind of interested in pursuing that in part because we know that individuals who have OC symptoms, especially if they're male and they first have symptoms when they're kids, they tend to also be at increased risk for ADHD as well as tic disorders. So those were two things that we talked about a little bit.
And I was trying to remember, I feel like if I came and sat with you like 4 more times, I'd remember, or I'd start to pick up on in moments in my day, oh, I do this, or I did do this, or whatever. So how often how often would I normally come in just to get a real good assessment on stuff like that? Like, is one visit, is that going to tell you everything you need to know about ADD, and then you kind of move forward in learning exactly what it is? Or do you need like 10 visits and then you go, okay, that is definitely this exact kind of ADD?
Yeah, I mean, it may be for an initial diagnosis, one session. If really with some cases, it's going to kind of hit you over the head. And if I had heard, you were losing stuff frequently as a kid, you were failing to turn in homework, you were acting out, talking in school, bored or easily
You kept
distracted.
pressuring me to lose stuff, I felt like. Did you lose your keys a lot? And I was like, no, my keys go exactly like this, facing this way.
Oh, that's another issue.
Do you worry about losing them?
Yeah.
So, no, because I know where they are.
Yeah.
I was like, they are in place. So can we go to the obsessive compulsive stuff?
Yeah.
My question was basically, did I face obsessive compulsive disorder at some point in my life? Do I have it now? And I want to make sure that when we're talking about OCD, or we're like, oh, Ty's OCD is showing, that we're not just being completely flippant about the way that we use that. So if I don't have it and I don't deserve to use it, I need to shut up genuinely, I do. I need to know that, because I felt that I can empathize with some of the things that people go through, and I could see how they could get exponentially worse.
Right. Yeah, and I think, how do you saying that now and with our conversation, is that reinforced that you feel more like, okay, I get it?
Like I understand it? Well, so I guess what would you say at the end of the conversation that we had, and then we'll break down why, some of the things that stand out about what I do, or what would your assessment be? Can I ask you that already? Or do you want that at the end? Is that the climax?
No. I think you can say what I told you if you feel comfortable.
I do. I hope I remember. Well, you said that probably when I was younger, I had very mild or moderate OCD.
Probably moderate.
Yeah.
Moderate
Yeah.
OCD.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was probably because I was hiding some of it on accident. Or I couldn't remember like some of the stuff I did, genuinely.
Yeah.
And then now I probably face, you said I would definitely fall into the mild OCD scale still.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things about OCD that's interesting is that right now, I mean, you're not significantly impaired by it. And in fact, you've said, I mean, you are saying, hey, some of the things that I do that may actually be kind of OC symptoms in terms of having systems and routines, they may be OCD informed,
Mm-hmm.
but you were feeling like, hey, that doesn't really get in the way. So that's not going to, if you walked in now.
So I have a type of OCD. Oh man, this bear unbalanced.
He was
Like,
not
he
right.
needs to be just right.
Yeah, but so that's the thing. So if I were really stressed out on a certain day, I would probably, you think I'm not moving him. Right now, I think I'm moving him to be exactly like I want him to be.
Mhm.
And that's a certain type of OCD.
Right, yeah.
Is that more obsessive or compulsive?
Well, the behavior itself is the compulsion. The behavior of let's get this right. Let's get this just so.
So annoying that you
And
moved
that
It is.
all wrong now.
Yeah.
And
Let's move along.
but
This is an
sitting-
exposure,
It
actually.
is, yeah. Sitting with the not quite right feeling, or the sensation of things have to be just right. And that can be associated with or else, and then there's a discrete fear. Sometimes it's just a bad feeling. That's the obsessive component. So that discomfort, it's the itch of the mosquito.
And I would have that. I would feel myself, my blood would get a little warmer, and I would feel a little anxiety from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And increasingly so if I were having a stress day where something didn't seem right at work and I was afraid I was going to get fired, or my kid is sick or something like that.
Right.
Now I'm worried about somebody. There is a direct component to what will go wrong if I don't do what I need to do. Then I would have increasing anxiety
Yeah.
until it got fixed.
Yeah.
So is that a psychological, I mean, because you're a
Yeah.
psychologist and Dr. Eken is a psychiatrist.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What are the two sides of that?
What are the two? Well, so I prescribe medication as well as can do therapy. So I'm an MD and Dr. Mariaskin's a PhD, so she's a psychologist.
I'm
So
nothing.
So PhDs tend to do more therapy than psychiatrists do. I love doing exposure response prevention for OCD, so I get more involved in that, but I can do medication. And so you can go to either, like if people are trying to be assessed for OCD, you can go to either type of doctor. But specifically for OCD, we think it's good to, go to somebody who has experience with OCD.
Well, and so you guys are talking about this like exposure. They keep saying the word
Yeah.
exposure.
Yeah.
And that would mean, and basically, for the record, I maybe had OCD at some point in my life. I still kind of have it, I guess. But it's not like something I can't control now. So it doesn't take a ton of time out of my life. Instead, I just kind of can ignore it when I have to. If I have a real high prioritized thing that I have to get to do, I'm going to go do it. If I don't really have to do anything, I might do the weird OCD thing where I flip the light switch or step in and out of my pants 8 times. And then I'll feel better because I'm like, well, that's taken care of.
Yeah.
But exposure.
Yeah.
What would you guys have me do if I were really going to test my limits?
We would.
Well, we would start easy first.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So literally moving this bear that you just put somewhere,
Mhm.
we would ask you how hard that would be, but
Not too hard.
yeah.
Especially it's
So
not
I'm-
my bear and I've never
right.
seen him.
So I'm guessing, I was gonna say, I'm guessing that's probably an easier one for you.
Yeah.
But it's doing that and then not coming back later either, and putting them back to how you had them.
Mhm.
So just leaving them there and kind of waiting for your anxiety to come down over that. And I always say it's think about whenever you put on a wool sweater,
Yeah.
that itchiness goes away over time, and that's what exposure does for anxiety. It brings that
That's
feeling down.
I was
over
just
time.
trying to picture that at my house if I had, because I have things very specifically where I want that
Yeah.
in my house. I would just, it would be, I don't know when that would ever not feel like we gotta move that Sunday. Days could go by,
experiment
weeks
with it.
could go
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
I may do that just
And
to
just
do
see,
it.
just do one object and shift it a little bit. You don't even have to change the whole location. I mean, just shift it.
You can do it. You can do it.
Okay. No.
And don't do it on a day where you think you're going to get fired from your job or
Right.
something like that, right? Because it's going to be harder.
High stakes days.
Yeah, high stakes
OCD
days.
will not
or-
be as
um,
easily habituated.
But I think also just what we're hearing from you too is a typical thing where OCD symptoms are higher sometimes than others. So stress can make OCD worse. Sometimes, just life circumstances of going through puberty or changing jobs, a lot of different things. So, OCD is something that's typically for most of people's lifetime, and it's just kind of how intense the symptoms are.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
over the years, it could come back stronger.
It could. It's possible.
And I can see that, and I've
Yeah.
been able to see that could.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But that's the cool thing too. If people do exposure work, they can actually incorporate that into times where OCD seems to it's starting to come back, and then they can start doing certain things to keep that anxiety from going higher by doing exposure work. And so
it is good to do. So I should
Yeah.
be doing that. Okay.
It is. Yeah.
I don't have the energy for it right now. I need a nap like an hour.
Well, you were also talking about how you have a tendency, if something makes you feel a little bit anxious, that you have a tendency to say, you know what, I'm just going to confront it. So think about this as being, it might not necessarily be anxiety so much as not quite right, or...
It's anxiety. It feels like anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes me tense. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. So do keep confronting it. I
Yeah.
did that with the sharks. Swim with sharks. I'm scared of sharks. Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
And same thing. I used to be like really claustrophobic, and I started like going into caves and then spelunking a little bit.
Yeah.
I
Good.
got
Yeah,
through it. And,
that's exposure.
Yeah.
and it really did. And I guess I don't know why it didn't click for me that is literally a way of treating it, but it definitely cleared it up for me. I was asked to tap 6 times on a desk because I hate 6.
Yeah.
And then I did it, and I actually probably felt a lot better when I came up with some excuse to tap 4 more times and just get it away from the
I
6.
saw that, yeah. I
Yeah.
saw that.
I think I would have been fine like just walking away from it, but when you're talking about it and you're focusing on it, it's interesting because then...
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think for a lot of times when you're experiencing anxiety, even if you're not able to do the ritual, whatever OCD wants you to do, if you can distract yourself or just be like, no, I'm not really going to think about it. Because we kept, I'd had him tap 6 times, and then I said, how does that feel? And you were like, not so great. We kept talking, kind of got distracted,
Yeah.
and then I was like, are you thinking about it? And you were like, no. And you were like, but...
Yeah, I can't remember.
did the little tap, and then
Yeah.
you're like, I'm cool now. So...
Well, because I have these good covers, because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I can naturally, like, there's a reason I'm tapping 4 times real
Right.
quick here or whatever. But
Well, and that's what people do too. We were saying, like, did it impair you at work, or do people notice it? But a lot of times people will try to cover up, like,
Yeah.
whatever their ritual is. But interestingly, the 666 thing is a pretty common OCD concern for the number 6 association with the devil. So
I believe that.
So we'll have like people write the number 6. We'll have them write 666. Those kind of things to get them more comfortable.
I could
with
write
it, 'cause it's just a
999 and
number.
maybe flip it over
Yeah,
for a little
yeah.
bit.
But it's like
No,
kind
no.
of taking the power away too, right?
Yeah.
It's just a number.
It
It
just-
doesn't
it's-
feel that way to you.
It just
right?
feels
Yeah.
I just don't like it. It's like
Yeah.
it feels unnatural.
Right.
I've gotten past it for the most part. But
Yeah.
we learned that like 5 is my number. If I
Mhm.
do get stressed, I could do things 5
Yeah.
times. Sometimes 5 times 5. And I don't know if there's anything to the primer or not, but I started thinking more about that, and I was like, I used to do 3, and somehow that 3 easily times 2 is 6. So then I switched to 5s, and then my other favorite is 13, and those are all prime numbers, and I'm kind of a math guy anyway, and I think that just knowing you couldn't accidentally fall into a 6 multiple unless it was literally times 6.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wait.
The indivisibility is somehow safer.
Yes.
Safer to OCD.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know you were kind of like, well, I suspect I might have a little bit of this, and but did you have any sort of stereotypical notion of like, oh, I must not have OCD because these, though people with OCD are
opposite.
XYZ.
I assumed I did have OCD.
You did? Okay.
I was super embarrassed when I was a kid of it, and I was much
Yeah.
more impaired by it when I was a kid.
Right.
And then as I've gotten older and I've been able to conquer little bits and pieces of it at a time,
Yeah.
obviously my insecurities fade away, and also I'm an adult, so I'm not naturally
Yeah,
as
yeah.
inclined to be like shy or whatever. So
Right.
no, I was actually trying to figure out this morning, and I don't know if you heard this, I was trying to figure out, would I be more offended if you guys told me
Oh.
you deal with OCD and now I have a label on me? It was weird walking back here in the hallway
Yeah,
and just knowing
sure.
everybody's looking at you right now.
Yeah.
Or if I was going to be more offended to learn like that all this time that I thought I was dealing with something that I thought was really difficult. So for everybody that's
Yeah.
watching and knows that we mention OCD sometimes, I felt like it was really difficult. I wasn't sure if it would be horrific to have somebody go, that's not really what you were dealing with. You were just
Yeah.
like a normal dude.
Yeah. So I'm just curious too, if we get to ask questions of you. Do you feel anything? Are you bothered, or is it totally fine? Like when the other hosts say something about your OCD to you?
It does not bother me.
Okay.
But that's why we came to do this, because
Right.
it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
And I know that I was able to, I guess it was exposure or whatever I did, where I started slowly overcoming some of those moments. So I know that I didn't let it win.
Yeah.
I know it's harder for other people than it is for me.
Yeah.
But that was why we came here, so that I would not just be being like, I overcame OCD if I didn't ever have OCD.
Right.
That's not fair.
Right.
So no, it doesn't bother me in any way, and I kind of like that that's a quirk of me because I know that I'm quirky in certain ways. So
and
validation.
what about when you were a kid? Did anybody ever say like that you?
I hit it so well.
Yeah.
My sister said I was weird. I told you that. I think.
Yeah.
My sister brought it up one day and was like, "No, that's weird." But you're kids, and you're like, "Oh, stupid sister."
Yeah.
But it was just that was when I knew it wasn't what every kid does.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious.
I was totally insecure and dorky about other stuff, but that one I think I hid pretty well.
Yeah. But you figured out you should hide it because, or that you.
Yeah, it was so inhibiting and it was so
bizarre.
overpowering in my life for a while that I was embarrassed that something had that kind of dumb power over me.
Yeah.
I remember you saying too when we were talking that there were a few things you knew you did, you perceived like, hey, this is a little bit different, and so you would ask others, hey, do you ever, do this particular whatever, go around, do something a number of times until it feels right, and others were like, no, and you were like, oh yeah, no.
I was like, yeah, of course not, weird, right? Meanwhile, I'm just going to go do that again, just like show you just what my example was until it feels right for a second.
Yeah.
And then the monster won't eat me.
Yeah.
But, no, I did do this kind of strange stuff when I was a kid. So I guess the main thing was we want to come here and say like, hey, let's find out what this is truly about. And then if somebody's dealing with OCD, the people that reached out to us were super sweet, and they obviously got so much help from you guys. So that this way, if it's them and they're like, hey, is Ty just being flippant about this?
Right.
Yeah.
Am I being flippant? Or if people say like, hey, Ty's OCD's coming out a little bit, is that rude or is that acceptable or should we not do that?
I mean, I think and again, I'm speaking on behalf of what we've heard our patients here say and our clients say, which is, when it's applied to things like a tendency to want to be neat, clean, organized, and particularly when it's used as an adjective, so like, oh, you're so OCD, or I'm OCD, I do this or that, that tends to feel really invalidating for people who might have had, even for you as a kid, when, it was taking up a lot of time for you and you were, and it was painful a little bit. It's kind of
because it's not anal retentive.
Right.
That's what people who say I'm OCD are saying.
Yes.
I've never believed I'm saying it that way.
Yeah. Or that like a lot of perfectionists will say that too, but their perfectionism's working for them, whereas like a perfectionist who has OCD, it's getting in the way, like they can't get things done because it can never be perfect, right? So I think, obviously you have to have your own personal boundaries with it, and you're fine with your coworkers, but I will say, like, some of your listeners probably may still not understand the context of that always. Obviously what you're doing is helping get information out there, but I don't know, something for you guys to think about. Just put the onus back on
Chuck. But if we're like, Ty's a little OCD, is Ty a little OCD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's how really, I just don't want to be like, something, I don't want to make it up. But if you like experience that kind of stuff, or you're kind of curious, definitely look into Rogers. And then Unstuck is the name of this video that is really
Should I grab the...
Yeah, you want to... Brian, can you show up a copy?
Is it available yet?
Oh, never mind.
Yes, it is. It is.
I'll grab it.
So there's this movie. We were just at the International OCD Foundation. There's a movie that just came out. It's called Unstuck.
I don't want to just...
And it's about actually kids with OCD and what their experience is like. And in fact, one of the kids in there talks about hearing other people say, like, when they're really clean, that they have OCD and how upsetting, because it really impaired their lives. And in fact, you'll hear all these kids have pretty severe OCD, but have overcome it.
I wish I could see little kid Ty to see, because I remember watching like things hop on little posts, and like I would just see. Yeah. It's just interesting, like how kids' minds work, because part of it's like you're just a kid, you're creative, and then on top of that, you may or may not be experiencing something that long run is going to affect you. So
right, yeah, right.
What there may be a screening of this later around my birthday month, October. Is that National OCD Awareness?
It is. There's a National OCD Awareness Week always in October, and so we do a community event here in Nashville to help raise awareness, and we do it really at all of our Rogers places. But obviously, we're all here in Nashville, so we'll host an event and hopefully be able to show this movie too.
Well, thank you both for taking so much time. Dr. Eken, Dr. Mariaskin, Brian the web guy, Ty. Go Pack, go.